Yeah.
All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak.
So
the
much
conversation
happening.
was going on even during the break. But now there was someone who sent a message saying that they used to work in a milk factory X, and it was common practice.
I think they still work there.
Yeah, I think it says sodium hydroxide or something. Yeah.
So what was one of those.
Florence, you want to comment on this?
Yeah,
From the ILRI perspective.
Putting chemical in milk to extend its shelf life.
Yeah, that's a malpractice. We call it adulteration. You add what is not supposed to be naturally there in milk, and depending on what you add, it interferes with the safety of that milk. So there are regulations that warn against those things, and the regulators are aware of that. So the question is.
So that individual should reach out to which body? Yeah. KEMS?
We have
not KEFIS, but...
We have the Kenya Dairy Board, which focuses on... yeah, but the question is, are they doing it because they don't understand the health effects of doing that, or they add it because they are more interested on the income they get from the milk?
Yeah.
That's the
so
question.
It's all about greed.
Yeah.
You're suspecting. Chef, you seem to be having an epiphany as the conversation continues.
That's the thing.
What are some of your concerns?
The thing is, like, when you buy fresh milk at the end of the day, like the shelf life is very minimum. It's like 2 days, and 3 days is going to go bad. And then long life milk has been the lifesaver for almost everyone in the country, and people feel like it's basically just powdered milk mixed with a little bit of water, of course water, and that's how you get your long life milk, and it's ultra heated at the end of the day. So people thought it's basically really safe. So the thing is, right now, getting to hear a lot about milk right now, raising a lot of concerns in terms of, like, consuming long life milk, because it's basically the way to go right now. You go to the supermarket, you get a lot of boxes piled up, long life milk, and people feel like it's the way to go. So I'm concerned.
Yeah, but
I think before we talk about not consuming, we really need to bear in mind what are the daily acceptable levels, because you find that sodium hydroxide may be used. The EU has guidelines for all the different preservatives that are required, but you don't have local guidelines on what the cutoffs are. So I think
the upper limits. The
upper limits. So I think before we condemn everything and basically say it's not appropriate, we need to come up with a safety level and say, if this is what is daily acceptable intake, then it's good to go.
But isn't that going to mean that it has to be constantly inspected?
It has to be constantly,
our institutions are failing in that level.
Exactly,
so
yeah.
It means we're still doomed at the end of the day.
You are doomed.
There's
hope.
There's hope. There's hope in the sense that we have the goodwill to set up an authority. We also have the goodwill to think about what safety levels are. So I think we just need to put up the structures to be able to monitor and come up with those daily acceptable levels, which are available in the EU and other countries, and we can actually use the same values. Okay. So that we do the testing, maybe with the government chemist, we take some samples, and then we're able to establish safety.
Yeah. Which way you wanted to jump into it?
No, I was just saying, like, in the formal milk systems, when farmers present the milk for these collection centers, there are tests that are performed to reject any milk that doesn't meet the requirements. Anything that interferes with the density of the milk, any water added will have an issue on the density of the milk, but also might introduce microorganisms that will.
There was also a concern about vegetables being grown along the sewer lines, and I've heard that a lot. How bad is that situation? Is it contaminated enough? Because we're looking at pesticides, then now we're looking at sewer lines as well. Is the contamination as bad as it's made to sound?
And for ILRI, I wonder about the livestock that we eat that vegetation, and then we eat the livestock after that. Is that something you study?
Of course, it's a possibility that animals feeding in areas where there is exposure to these pathogens. There is that possibility.
Which will still end up on your table then?
Yeah, through the animal route. We don't focus much on the pesticides as an institute, so I wouldn't comment more on that. But it's there. It can happen, especially if you grow there and then you just harvest and take it direct to the market.
Maybe Leila should jump in on this, because I know you're very big on the pesticides issue, but have you also checked the impact of sewer lines and all that?
Yeah.
What does it show?
We haven't checked the impact in terms of a research study, but I think we know there was a lot of coverage on this, like you were saying last year, that we were growing food specifically in urban areas, with dirty water, and that this is being made this is what most people in urban slum areas are eating. So I think the biggest component there is to look at how we can get clean water accessible, because at the end of the day, guys, you can't say that street food is something that needs to be gotten rid of because it's not clean, because at the end of the day it's a major source of food security, and it's how people afford to buy food in most of the urban areas in Nairobi. In most of the slum areas in Nairobi. So we need to look about how can we rather invest in and support informal food trade with clean water systems, with lighting, and so that vendors can actually still be providing this very important service at an affordable rate, but in a safe and healthy way.
So the biggest issue here is contamination of the food from whichever angle, whether it's the sewer lines, or there's the pesticides, or it's even just exposure to pathogens.
Yes, and I think we can't say that just because it's street food, it's contaminated. You could look at food in supermarkets that's equally contaminated, which is why, there's a strong political conversation that needs to be had around the fact around this. It's just because it's street food, informal trade doesn't mean that it's any worse than food we might be getting in a hotel or in a supermarket.
In fact, WHO did a study in 1993 in 100 countries, looking at 100 street vendors, and basically what they found was that the main things was that the raw and uncooked food were the risk factors, and also the food handlers and just the way the food was processed. So basically what they recommended was that so long as you can have hot, well-cooked food in the street, those small outlets, then you're safe.
But there's also been a counter-argument that preservatives like sodium metabisulfite, doesn't matter how highly heat you use to cook it, it still won't disintegrate. So it will still end up in your system somehow.
So it breaks down to something else that could be even worse.
So even food handling doesn't really suffice in terms of dealing with the real chemicals that are there. This will just handle the pathogens like E. coli and all that. Is that true, Leila?
I'm not sure.
All right, we have some feedback.
About six of them. Let's take a look at them right now.
All right, let's bring them up on the screen.
And remember, we're saying it's not all doom and gloom, okay? We don't want to leave people with just
In fact, when we come back, we'll talk about just all the solutions.
Let's
now talk about solutions so that we don't just paint a picture.
Even our system has panicked.
We have Felix from Ruiru. Says, good morning. My question is, could the government put field officers in the open markets like Githurai, Ruiru, Kiambu, etc., who can check at random our vegetables are highly compromised with pesticides just before they're taken to the markets? So there is a solution. Felix has already started giving solutions.
Okay, you don't give us your name, but you say you think the current increase in cancer cases has its root case in the way food items are produced, manufactured, stored, and transported to the final consumer. This means that you can have a healthy plate on your table, but in the real sense unfit for human consumption due to compromised food production means. Okay.
All right, let's see another one here. Kinyanjui from Kikuyu says, I'm a part-time farmer and I will tell you tomato farming is absolute hell.
My goodness.
You have to use very high concentration of pesticides. There's a pre-harvest period which farmers out of greed or ignorance don't observe. All right. For those who do chicken, there are medication for which eggs and meat are not to be consumed for 14 days. Who throws away eggs for those 2 weeks? Food out there is poison.
Run.
He adds the word run.
Run. Oh my God, it's like a horror movie. Okay, Oliver Oko. It's difficult to argue against GMO, but I think the food should be labeled so as to give consumers a choice. We also can't engineer our digestive systems to react with the chemical additives. I advocate for food safety over commercialization.
Moranga from Embakasi says, in Kenya, everything about food is a security threat. Farmers and Kenyans need to be trained more on how to grow healthy food and handle food in a healthy way for public consumption. Training. So far, we're still having a lot of solutions coming through from our viewers.
SMSs? Is it SMSs now?
Tweets.
Tweets rather, okay. And this is using the hashtag Daybreak. This is what you are saying on social media. We have at E. Oriedo, as individuals, we would not be able to know what is safe and what is not true. That is why we all contribute to social services like this through taxes to the government. The government should put institutions and systems in place to safeguard its people. And again, this falls under Ministry of Agriculture, possibly in partnership with Health. Okay.
Mutai says, go organic and you will stop these lifestyle diseases. I practice this for subsistence and everything works just fine.
And Mutai, if you don't mind texting again, tell us, where do you get your products from? Give us more details if you can, if you're still watching the program.
All right, still another one.
All right, Wamai Gisheru says the food safety and hygiene laws are there. We have the public health department and the counties, but the problem is the funding of their activities to ensure food surveillance. Kindly next time invite a public health officer on the show.
But she's here.
She's a specialist. So we have one here. Do you know what one from the counties? I don't know.
All right.
So, solutions. And you had said before we talk solutions, we need to find out where exactly we are. Just talk to us a bit about that. And this is in terms of a survey.
Also keeping in mind what the farmer said, because he says that in order for them to get any sort of produce, they use very high level concentration chemicals. He says that there's a period where people who are rearing poultry need to leave their chicken for 14 days. But they're layers. So it means eggs within that 14 days have to be disposed of. And he was asking who would dispose eggs for 2 weeks.
And
so they'll still end up
that's
in the
the withdrawal period I was talking about.
Yes.
So people are ignoring the withdrawal period.
Because of the economic...
commercialization.
So we'd actually need to do a randomized survey where we'd identify specific areas in different counties, but to make sure that wherever we select, it's a representative sample to be replicated in the whole country. And look at adherence to the withdrawal period, look at all the risk factors that we think are related to, and even find out what the levels of contaminations are, and that will serve as a baseline for us to be able to work towards reducing that contamination. Because right now we cannot start without any kind of baseline. We don't know where we are shooting from. So a national survey would actually be very urgent to do, and that's one thing that in the society would actually want to get involved in, because that will give us the numbers. The situation may not be as bad as we think. Yes.
Media headlines is not an indication that this is a situation across the country.
We could be picking the very contaminated ones, and yet in most of the places it's not really that bad. So it's good for us to do a situation analysis and really find out what the situation is.
Okay. I hope the task force is watching and paying attention to some of these. Go ahead, Leela.
Well, I think an immediate step that we could take is to look at the active ingredients that are already known to have chronic health effects. Before we don't even need to do the survey to know that. We know that these products are registered in Kenya and being used in Kenya.
And yet they're not used in other parts of the world.
Exactly. But even if they are banned in other parts, even if they're not banned or banned, the status in another country is not our problem. As Kenyans, we know that what the chronic health effects are, and on that basis, it's already proven, and on that basis, we can ban these pesticide products that have these active ingredients in them. As a first step, as a first measure, to consumers, I would really want to say, go organic. Close the gap between where you get your food from and who's producing your food and what's on your plate. So you can buy directly from your farmer. Close the gap, guys, and so you know how your food is grown, what's being put in it. You know the farmer, you know the people producing your food. And
so would you advocate for someone to inspect the farm? Go and visit that farm where your food is coming from.
Oh yes, it's happening around the world. Goes the person even your mama and boga. You can even ask her where she's sourcing her food from. It's a totally viable question. Create a rapport, build a relationship with where you're buying your food from. I mean, I do that. I know a number of other people that are doing that. It's happening in Kenya. There are a number of organic farmers doing really beautiful work at scale, and they're running profitable businesses, and it's not that expensive.
And it's not as expensive as it sounds.
Yeah.
So you want to say something before?
What percentage of the farmers, the smallholders, do you think in the country are doing this organic.
Do you have any numbers?
I don't know the percentage, just at the moment that it's a mix of conventional versus sort of organic agriculture. But I think, I don't have a percentage in terms of how big at scale smallholder farmers are using organic practices.
Okay.
You know, and I think this is even important from an economic or business perspective. It's crazy that, you know, 33% of the pesticides that we use in this country are banned in Europe. Yet Europe is where we get most of our pesticide products from. It's more than China and more than India. It's mostly coming from Europe. Yet this is the very market that we're trying to export our produce back to. I mean, talk me around that story. It doesn't really make sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
You wanted to say
So
something
I've come
before Chef
across a
comes in?
supermarket, which I won't name, but basically what they do, they actually go to the source and look at how the food is being grown and how it's being processed before they engage a supplier. What I'm not sure is whether they follow up now with the suppliers, they continue to supply, but I know at entry point that's what they do.
Okay.
Which is what I think most supermarkets should be able to do to ensure that we have safety.
Okay, oh, that's a very interesting point. A supermarket in Kenya?
In Nairobi.
In
So
Nairobi.
their own personal initiative.
Yeah, they have their manager go to inspect and before they contract a person. And that ensures that from the point of the source, the packaging and the delivery, they ensure that the whole pipeline is safe.
It's safe.
Yeah.
Okay. Chef, what are your thoughts now?
I would
terms
say,
of
oh my God,
solutions now.
go organic.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I have my backyard. I have a little nursery that I grow little, things that I could grow, so I can use every single day. But then going organic is basically the right way right now. But again, organic is a bit expensive, and not everyone could be able to afford it. And locating the organic, ingredients are basically also not really easy
Can be
to
challenging.
locate. Can be a little bit challenging as well. But again, also talking to the mama bloggers, as Leila just said, is very important to know where the ingredients are coming from at the end of the day, and at least you can be able to trace how they get the ingredients for them to be able to to be healthy or for human consumption at the end of the day. And again, training is also very important. Like, if we could get more training to our farmers, and I know there are organizations like IFAD, that's International Fund of Agriculture Development. They invest in rural areas and rural people. They come to the farmers. They want to know what they face in terms of climate change. They want to know what they face in terms of right now as we speak, maize is scarce in the country, and that's what we eat every single day. But then what is the solution? We don't have maize. Does it mean people would suffer with hunger at the end of the day? Yes, it is happening, but then we have sorghum, and sorghum is something that we bring up, but again, we sell it internationally. We sell it outside rather than eating it. But then it could be a staple that we would eat, but again, we are stuck to our maize, which is scarce right now, and a lot of people are suffering. So there are a lot of ways that we could be able to implement to our farmers and train them. And as chefs, at the end of the day, it's important to talk to the farmers and tell them that, hey, it is fine to eat the sorghum. You can make a nice pap or a nice ugali out of the sorghum. If you would, grind the sorghum and cook something out of it, and it's very nutritious, and it doesn't need a lot of water to bring up, not like maize. So at the end of the day, there are solutions, but we need a lot of training.
Something that I've been struggling with, Chef, and this is also a very controversial statement, because now, when you're supposed to make veggies, it's recommended that you don't heat it too long.
Yes.
But then these veggies sometimes have pesticides.
No.
So what is the balance? Should I just boil my veggies and just let it stay there? Or should I keep it green, whip it really fast?
You should charge him for this.
Yes, I know.
No, when you actually overcook your vegetables, this means you're only eating fiber.
Yeah.
You've killed all the nutrients in there. But then coming to the pesticides that are basically involved in bringing up the vegetables, the moment you pass it through heat, we believe that you've basically killed. you know, and you're blanching it so that you want the nutrients from the vegetables, you know, at the end of the day. So you don't want to overcook it because you don't want to just to eat for the sake of eating and eating fiber without any nutrients in your body. But then heating it up would probably cook it, and the reason of heating it up is probably like, you know, also getting rid a little bit of that pesticide. Not probably everything, because at the end of the day, you know, it is.
Because exactly what she's talking about, the withdrawal period. If say for example you use the pesticide A and pesticide B, this one has 14 days, the other one has 21 days, the next one has 16 days, it means at no given point are you supposed to harvest. Because if you accrue this number of days, then it means you will have no produce. And that is the main concern, because, and that's where Mutua would also come in. When we talk about this withdrawal period, how can that be really implemented? Because if a farmer uses more than 1 or 2 pesticides, and they all have different withdrawal periods. So if you first end with the first 14 days, I haven't harvested a single thing. The next one has 21 days. Again, I haven't harvested a single thing. How am I in business?
Yeah, I'll talk about the use of drugs in animal health. Farmers will want to have the animals treated if they are sick, because they want to keep up the production and protect the animals, the health of the animals. So ideally, the best would be to consult animal health professionals who are trained to treat, and they will advise on the issues around withdrawal period. So in an effort to reduce misuse of antibiotics, it is always good to use that channel where you consult the professionals, they come and they manage the animals. The reason why we focus so much on this withdrawal period is the risk to this resistance and microbial resistance. Because when this resistance hits in, it means that the formulations that we have, the drug formulations that we have, they are going to be rendered useless. And some of them have effects in human health. So we want to reduce that risk. It takes long to come up with a formulation, a drug formulation, but it is so easy to render that drug useless. So we want to encourage our farmers to be careful when it comes to using these antibiotics in production.
Okay, a thought has come to mind, and I know our time is up. Raw food. Any of you advocate for that?
Even raw eggs. I know people train a lot.
Raw drink,
raw eggs. Is that okay?
Not really.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think raw food is, because it has more fiber, especially vegetables. I think the best thing is just to ensure that we clean the vegetables properly.
Clean the vegetables. And
ensure that we try and get it from a safe source, because at the end of the day, raw vegetables are much, much healthier than cooked vegetables. We tend to get more fiber, there are more vitamins. So we should just make sure we clean them well, and we know that it's from a reliable source. So we shouldn't give up on raw food. And also the food handlers. If you're looking at it, getting it from a hotel, you should be sure that the food handlers have been treated.
Wow. Seems there's a lot to consider for the task force that's to look into food safety in the country. And finally, the Food Safety Authority that the government has been talking about setting up, that hopefully will merge all these different bodies that are handling different parts of food safety into one place, one source that you can get all your information from.
But also on that,
briefly, please.
Attribution. How much of the foodborne problems that we are getting now, how much of that is attributable to the different pathways? Like, for example, the consumption of raw products. That one, research on that will also help this committee know what to prioritize when they come in to provide.
Chef, what are we making today? Because we're coming to this.
I was told today to focus on grains. At the end of the day, I'm just going to do a little bit of some jahe and and fish, which at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure it's basically from Kisumu, and it's organic.
We haven't even talked about the food that's being imported into the country. Fish from China, or from Chinese operators now coming into the country, from Uganda, from Tanzania. Topic for another day. We are out.
They use carbon monoxide.
Carbon monoxide?
Yeah, it's commonly used to keep fish fresh. In fact, Singapore, Canada, the EU and Japan have actually banned the use of carbon monoxide because it keeps the gills pink. And
I'm just going to stop
basically
there
just
now.
Yeah.
That's too much now. Chef, we're still going to eat that fish, right? We are about to take a break, but let's take a look at some of your thoughts. And it's not all doom and gloom. We need to emphasize that.
Yeah. Let's see what you're saying online. First up, Ndisho Mbugwa says, I've lived in Githurai for almost 25 years now. Bet me
it's like I bet we have consumed
worse than that. I wonder what these health officers really do.
Wow. You don't give us your name, but you say bread doesn't grow mold after a whole week. How? It stays fresh even after a week.
Though?
I don't know what bread he's consuming, but it's like it stays fresh all through. And you're so happy, you're like, wow, look at this bread.
All week. All right. Duke says much needs to be done from the food production, consumer education, and food safety risk analysis and assessment. What we have in Kenya are reactions once issues come up. Unless we have a structured approach, food safety will always be a mirage.
Okay. Omari Bas 5, KEBS have failed us in regulating the food safety. They must do more. Okay, our guests agree with that.
It does. The solution is with all of us.
Bodies.
All right. Once high pesticide levels are determined, it should be impounded for destruction.
Okay.
All right, let's see what else is saying.
Chris Opio, excuse me, 18, due to scarcity and demand, the agriculturalists whose products fail internationally make local
market dump sites. All right, let's see another one here. Clinton Bill says it should be our day-to-day responsibility to ensure that what we consume is safe and not just sit and wait the moment an issue arises.
This reminds me of a statement. You once had, it was said that security begins with you.
Now
food safety begins with you. All right, Trevor, let's take that break now.
Taking a short break. When we come back, we'll go and eat. Breakfast tips. Yeah, we're eating that fish.
Safe breakfast tips. We'll be right back.